Hello, hi, this is Eric Lehman, and welcome to this Monday, the, 22nd, 23rd of May. Let's make that correct. It is the 23rd of May already. Look at that. Anyway, I am here to share a blab about our Game Changer virtual living room, about knowing and living our values, and also sort of understanding the contrast when we see what happens when we have lapses in our values. And I feel like this is at the core of what we have the opportunity to reimagine in the Game Changer movement. And what I mean by this is, like, there are so many interesting times. Wow, I was just watching my cat attempt to hunt through the sliding glass door unsuccessfully, which scared a really beautiful bird away from the window. But anyway, all that being said, it is time for us to get underneath all these different phenomenon. And like, it's just what I'm realizing is that there are worlds that we get sucked into, whether they're the gaming world or, alcohol or addiction of any kind, and I'll be honest, I struggled, or my whole family line, struggled with addiction. And sometimes it was addiction with shopping, I guess what they call retail therapy, or addiction with drugs and alcohol, which never really afflicted me. But for me, every once in a while, I just get caught up in the world of Texas Hold'em poker. And I guess the challenge is like, I'm just okay enough to be dangerous in that game, which means that there are, I experience peaks and valleys, and so, like, the peaks are so awesome and they feel so good, and the valleys are so not so good, but it also, like, I guess what I'm looking at as is like, I now have a deeper place of empathy for the kids who play violent video games, because, much like the poker community, there is a gaming community, and it is very alive and very very omnipresent. Same with the poker community, same in a way with the alcohol community. So I mean maybe this is worthy of maybe even writing a chapter of, what does community mean, and how do our values intersect with how we live in community. And I'll share this, is that, like, yesterday, and like, there's just been a lot of volatility in life, and I'm a very sensitive person. So I noticed that my reaction to it was very interesting. So whereas some people would turn to alcohol or drugs or other things like that, I didn't. I turned to a community I knew all too well, which was like the Texas Hold'em community. And so, like, I got to thinking, like, what does it mean to is this part of my new values? Is this the me I want to be known as being? Is this the community that I want to lift me up? And the answer is, in a way, yes and no, because as I was driving home and getting ready to record this, and it looks as though I'm the only one on air, and I'm the only one, probably going to be on the show today. I feel like, a new understanding of my values arrived as I was driving home today, and I realized that I do want to live my life by example, and I want to model an exemplary life, and whatever that means. And I want to evolve and change and grow, and I want my kids to witness me doing just that. And so, with that said, like, I just, I feel like, there's this expression that I share with Carol, and Carol shares with me, which is everything in moderation, including moderation. And so, it's a very interesting motto or expression, because along with addicted personality comes sort of extremism. And so I guess this is where I just have empathy and compassion for kids who find themselves addicted to violent video games, and I feel like that's the place, that's another place where we get to meet kids exactly where they are and say, wow, like, I have been there. It may not be with a video game controller in my hand, but I've been there with 2 cards in my hand, and others have been there with, drinks in their hand or drugs in their hand, or ingesting them. And so, every once in a while, and today is one of those days, is like I get to look at myself and say, wow, who do I want to be going forward? And as we dive into, I mean, there are so many great Game Changer movement updates that I'd love to share with you. Like, who is going to lead that, and how do I get to show up to that role? And I want to share that with you. I want to let you know that that the person leading the Game Changer movement is yes, human, as well as observant and observing and compassionate and empathetic. And so I'm a little bit all over the place, but I just had this revelation, or as they say in the Good Dinosaur, a relevation. That's what they say in the Good Dinosaur. And I feel as though I'm going to watch that movie again and maybe even create a coaching practice around it. That being said, when you have a relevation, when you change your elevation, and sometimes you change it in the upward direction, sometimes you go way low. And there's no value judgment either way. It's just like, what does it mean to visit this trough again? And what does it mean to visit this high point again, or this apex again? So I know I'm getting, pretty esoteric, I guess, but what I'm really saying is, what I witnessed, and what I witnessed in the video game community, as well as in the poker community, and perhaps even, I guess more apparent at bars, in the alcohol community, if you call it that. And I mean, I don't want to put a value judgment on it. So, so that being said, a lot of what people are gathering for is the creating and the sharing of stories and shared memories and experiences. And so one of the things I observed at the poker table is that there are a lot of people who aren't necessarily there to make a lot of money. They're there to share stories. And one of the most interesting observations is that most people want to share a story of the last time they got beaten really, really bad in a poker hand. And maybe, it's very similar to the last time there was an epic fail in a video game. And so I feel like, these memories and these experiences that I'm taking in are really helping to create empathy and to learn further and further how to meet people exactly where they are, wherever they are, and and know that that's the only way that relatability happens. So what's a relevation, right? What is a relevation? What is the message of the good dinosaur? Well, the good dinosaur really talks and speaks to the idea that a change in perspective, whether it's the rising tide where you find yourself on the top of a tippy top tree avoiding, a rising tide underneath you, or you find yourself at the bottom of a crater, because you fell somewhere or whatever. When you change your elevation, or when you go to a higher elevation and you can just pan down and you can look at your world introspectively, you can say, wow, there's a lot that's happening right now, and it's time to shift a few behaviors, a few patterns. But how do we do that? Well, first we need to identify them. And on top of that, what do we change into? And that's where I want to just bring up the idea that knowing our values is one of the most rudimentary steps. And I don't want to underscore or undervalue what it means to be a rudimentary step, but I feel like before we go forward in anything, the game changer movement or anything else, how do we know how we're going to relate with each other? What are our values? So with the game changer movement, on the Dream Catalyst website, I've actually created a list of our values so that people know what we're about in advance. And first and foremost, they know that we're collaborative and not a competitive organization. What does that even mean? And we'll get into that in a later conversation. But what I mean by all these things is that it's important for groups, for families, for institutions to know their values. And one of my observations is that even this guy, I need to refer back to what makes me me and my value statement, and revise it so that this newly found revelation or relevation can take hold and challenge me to be a better person, so that I can lead the game changer movement in so many new and unique ways. So with that being said, I'm so excited. I'm going to give you a few game changer movement updates. We had a great meeting yesterday, although I was technically challenged and on location elsewhere. We were able to come together, and the team is expanding, and there are just really great opportunities happening, and hopefully we will come to life and actually create collaborative experiences and work in the UK. And that'll be exciting. And then we also aim to work in Vegas, as we shared with you a few weeks ago. And Carol is doing great things, just aligning her values with the Game Changer movement, and that's wonderful. And we are all working together as a team, and a few friends of mine are coming together, one of them from the Modern Dad Council, and one of them Ethar, who joins our call a lot, is also part of the planning team. And so that part feels so alive. It feels so amazing. And I'm just really ready to expand into it. And so I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that all this stuff is happening, and some of the travel has subsided to the point where I may be able to record a few episodes of the Game Changer Virtual Living Room from here, from Ithaca or from Newfield, however you want to look at it. And my kitty cat Walter wants to make a cameo, so here he is. And we miss each other quite a bit sometimes. So anyway, it's all really amazing. And now it's down to execution. It's time to take all these great words that we've been putting out there and do something with them. And I know that'll make Carol and a lot of other people happy, because it's just, the Game Changer movement is first about proclaiming and holding the space for change, and next about living into that change. So, and we're going to do it from the demand curve side. And I think that's the important part. Carol and I are co-authoring a book called Conscious Disruption, and there'll be so much more to hear about that as that unfolds. One of the things I realize is that, we can lobby all we want. We can write all these nasty grams to different companies. But at the end of the day, if people don't change their habits, it's kind of an interesting, not that I'm patting myself on the back by any means, but while I was at the casino a few days ago, instead of taking on more and more styrofoam cups, because I like to drink tea a lot, every time I had tea, I brought my reusable travel mug, and I asked if the drink people would make my tea in that mug, and they did. And I didn't know that they would, but they did. And it made me feel good. It made me feel really, really good that they did that. And that it was just an okay question to ask, and then that it was totally answered affirmatively. So with that said, instead of consuming probably 8 styrofoam cups, I didn't consume any, and I felt good. I felt so good making that decision and enrolling a few of the staff people at a place who now know that I want to refuse more plastic, and I don't want to cause more demand for plastic creation or consumption. And that's me living into my values. So on one hand, I probably was in binge mode and, did a, sort of a solo retreat, if you will, at a casino. All that being said, even there, I was able to live more firmly into my environmental values. So that was kind of cool. And there's just going to be more and more instances where this sort of stuff happens. So, just keep up with us and let us know what you'd like to chat about. And hopefully this will go out to more and more people, because this is one of the first things that we'd love to get sponsored as part of the Game Changer movement. Anyway, thank you so very much for joining us. And we will talk to you next week, Monday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time, assuming this time works out for the rest of the team, because I don't want to record too many of these things alone anymore. Alrighty, with the light doing what it's doing, I will sign off for now, and we'll talk to you next week.